Here we go. We're going to do a little storytelling. We're going to do a little thanks for the memories. And we're going to talk about the old 89 Spartans. 88, 89, late 8, 28 and 5 Sparties. And I need to get this kind of told. I had to tell my brother-in-law, or my brother, the other day. Hold on. There we go. Okay, I had to tell my brother, I posted something on YouTube the other day. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible, even though it's not going to be too fast. So I posted something on YouTube the other day, and I didn't get it completed, and it's underneath North Greene, Spartans. All one word, North Greene, because it seemed like the community finally hashed in as one instead of two. We're a consolidated area around here, and Dad always said it was kind of like a sleeping giant. And during the rebuild and after the speech and 17 games in a row, we did one heck of a job on getting some hardware finally. So I posted something on YouTube and about not being, not getting any recognition. You know, the old adage, things can get done. A lot of things can get done if you don't worry about who is. Well, it was a John Wooden expression. You can get a lot of things accomplished if you don't care who gets the accolades, something like that. So I didn't care. You know, I didn't care if I didn't get mentioned. I didn't care if I wasn't on the team brochure. I knew I was there. The kids knew I was there. The coaching staff knew I was there. And I wanted to be on the next staff, the coaching staff, the next year after. So I told the story on my YouTube, and I kind of need to clear it up on what happened. I was telling my brother-in-law, after all this, hardware and memorabilia and good times, we had a me wanting to coach. And at that time, you had to have a degree to coach. And we're going to start back when I was working on computers, and I changed my career to do something besides work on machines and fixing them. And I had two nephews that I dearly loved, and two of them are in this picture up here, Mike and Joey. And I decided to make a career change and go back into teaching and change my career probably when I was 27 or 28. And so I quit my job as a computer technician and told my father, and decided that that's what I wanted to do. I really did want to be part of a community rebuilder and working with kids and helping students and stuff. So I went to attend college and education, and the old boy told me he couldn't be my advisor. We had a new advisor coming in. So as I was explaining to my brother-in-law last night, a lot of people don't know the story. As I mentioned in my previous YouTube, I was probably going to be able to take care of these guys and and continue what Dad and I built. Speaksy and Thomas and all of them, and the alumni, and take over the program. Dad was having heart troubles, and he was getting too stressed, and he was getting old and 55 and wanted to retire. And at the time, I wanted to go into teaching and coaching. I was about 2 weeks from graduating, right after this 89 season, 90 season, and wanted to take over. Unfortunately for me, I didn't heed the warning signs When I went back to go back into college, all I had was an associate's degree in business, so a lot of my courses didn't transfer over to be into education. The advisor that was new told me that I didn't have what it took out of nowhere. Thought that was quite strange. I wish I would have put two and two together and realized that he didn't really want me around. I was an older male, non-traditional, 27, 28 years old, been out in the workforce, and knew what a 40-hour work week was, plus. So when he tells me I don't have what it takes, well, that's more of a challenge for me. So I went back to school and had to pick up another year's worth of courses because all my courses were in business. So I had a computer technician's certificate, I had an AS in business, and I went back to school to be in education so that I could coach and teach. During that process, Dad was about ready to retire. He knew I wanted to get back into coaching, and so he went in the superintendent's office and said he wanted to be the coach. And I believe that was around 86, 87 year. And Jack was the superintendent, and he made him wait a year. So here I'm going back to school, working part-time, doing this and that. And like I said, it was kind of weird. My advisor was always throwing me slack. I finally went 1 year of college, got back. I was able to maybe graduate in 2 or 3 years with which is bachelor's in science and education, so that then I could coach high school football or baseball or basketball, whatever, and get into the realm there. So I mentioned back in the article on my YouTube post about I'm being referred or asked who I thought, because at the time, I'd lost my chances to get into the coaching. I was 2 weeks from graduating. I had a 2-month-old at home. I'd just gotten married. Just had an evaluation at my senior year of student teaching. Like I said, I was 2 weeks from graduating. I made a Freudian slip. Accordingly, smart aleck, I missaid that. This was on a Friday in the spring with a bunch of unruly 6th graders who had, the teacher had stated that this was the worst class that she'd ever had in 18 years. And I was there to help supervise and do other things. And it seemed like every position I was put in through my student teaching and through my 3 years at this college, I was there to assist the student teachers who needed some help, and accordingly had to stand up to this professor several times over on test questions. I was the only male basically in the class. So I stood up to him and said, there's 2 right answers to this this question. And a lot of the girls liked that I stood up for them and argued with him on what question was right. And a lot of times the question had 2 correct answers. So he didn't like me standing up to him. I thought there was something weird going on. I told my mom my junior year, I said, hey, could you come up there with me and we can have a discussion with this advisor of mine? It seems like he's got it out for me, and I want to see from your view. So we went in his office. We went over a grade that he graded, and got him frustrated and flustered, and he basically just turned around and in front of my mom and myself said that I would never graduate from this college, and that I was horrible in this class or that class, although I had earned a grade and a B grade in every class that I took for 3 years in that college. 3 years of A's and B's. The only C that I received or earned in that whole institution was in his class, where he changed the syllabus on the last day of class on the finals in order that you would have to have a higher grade, and I had basically had assured a B in that grade, that class, teaching reading in elementary or teaching math or something or the other. So he changed the syllabus. I ended up getting a C. That's the only C I had in the entire 3-year institution that I went to. I'm 2 weeks from graduating. I've built, me and Dad's built this here dynasty. I'm wanting to take over. Come to find out, this advisor of mine lives 2 blocks from campus, builds his own little tree house, pretty nice big house inside of a tree, so that then he could have his, he's married of course, but then he could have his little high school graduate, just new college kid, female students come on over and visit him in his tree house. Was I ever invited over there? No, really, no. Didn't want to go over there in his tree house. But I'm just letting you know that's kind of what the story was. Looking back, I was the only male there standing up to him. He didn't like it. He'd already told my mom that I wasn't going to graduate, and he stackpiled anything that he could and anywhere that he could to make it tough for me so that I'd quit or that I'd make a mistake. 2 weeks from graduating, he evaluates me. I didn't get my break. It's Friday. I hadn't had any break at all. He evaluates me. I do good. Got a B on the evaluation on my student teaching review that he did, and then he leaves. He grabs my main teacher, and she takes off. And right before lunch, I'd made a Freudian mistake, said smart-ass remark to a student, and knew I'd messed up. When the teacher comes back in, the bell rings for lunch. She flies off. I try to approach her. 2 or 3 other students are in my way. She doesn't give me the time or day to explain to her what had happened to me and that I'd made a Freudian slip. So I live next to the area that I taught at. I go home and I call Dad. He's a principal, doing substitute principal and doing this and that. And he said, well, you just made a Freudian mistake. I mean, that's what student teaching's about. You make mistakes, you grow from them, you get corrected, and, just go back in and you should be fine. And I was awfully upset that I made a mistake. And, of course, I didn't have my break, didn't have much time to relax, and then being left unsupervised in this class right before lunch, and they're all going ballistic. They'd already had discipline troubles with them the whole entire year with a point system that most of them had flunked, and they wouldn't be able to be allowed to go to their Six Flags trip, whatever. So I get back into school. I'm pulled in by the administrator, the principal, and where I inform him of what I just discussed with my father. And he pulls out a list of things and accuses me of this one. He accuses me of this and of this, from the fall, from the spring, from the midwinter. Accusations and things that I thought we'd already discussed or took care of. Some of it I didn't even know. And then he says, I've had it. You're suspended. Basically, I can't teach anymore. Student teach. Can't finish my student teaching. My dad finds out about this. He calls, gets a hold of the college. The college will not let me pick up any student teaching anywhere. And so I had a chance to get a supervisor, Masato, from Illinois, from the college that I was at. And Dad had a new substitute that would help me, and I could go ahead and get the 10 weeks of student teaching in on my last, do it all over again. And they denied that request, that I wasn't able to student teach, so then I would have an incomplete on my student teaching, which I didn't really want to have there on that to begin with. Long story short, didn't get my degree. Lost 3 years of all my trials and efforts. Could not appeal the faculty. There was the old boy that set me up, that liked me, the education advisor, he said you could take 3 classes in lieu of the student teaching, then go out and get 10 days of substituting, and then reapply for the 10 days of substituting, and then you'd be certified, just recertify, and I could get by without the student teaching. This was back, I believe, in the 90s, right after 89, 90, 91. And so I petitioned the board to take the 3 classes in lieu of student teaching. I got turned down several years. After several years, I had a 2-month-old at home. I'd worked factory work for 3 years and 3 summers to afford to have a living and to provide for my family, and then get this done to me. I had a program like this to take over and was denied that. Any other college I couldn't go to because you have to have 2 years to graduate from at any other college, even though I had everything done. And so I even tried to go back and go into PE. I'd have to have a full year of doing that and another couple of additional courses. I said, give me the factory job. I did that. I petitioned the board for several years. I was denied for several years. I was told I was incompetent, even my dad got an attorney involved right at the very beginning. Big mistake. I couldn't afford that guy. I couldn't afford to go against Ramblecamp and associates. So basically, I'm out of luck, and I wasn't able to take over these guys and the program. And so I knew Marty Rhodes. He took over the program. I kind of liked him, and yeah, he knew a little bit of ball. He coached, I think, at Mount Olive, and he worked. We talked a lot on the team, and never was asked to be an assistant there. And when I tried to be the assistant the next year or two, one of the coaches cried so bad to Dad that he didn't want to fire him and have me on the bench. So I didn't get any recognition on any of it. Although, like according to this picture behind me, that the guys knew. That was my acknowledgement. But it still hurts when I try to go find a job to coach. And even now to this day, I have nothing on my record about taking these guys to state with my dad. The 3 years that I put in, running up and down the court with them. I was 27. I was about that time pretty damn good. I was semi-pro. I wanted to go down I wanted to go to U of I in 83 or in 84. My body filled out. I was really a good point guard. And I went to computer school anyway. Instead of going to the U of I couldn't get accepted there. My grades weren't good enough. So went into computers, did that for a while. Got tired of working on machines. And then, like I said, I got blacklisted there at this college. Ruined my career. I even went over there at one time back in 2015 to apply again to figure out to see. I think it was 2008. I went back in 2008 to apply to get my degree. Or I said I'll do it in. My daughter was by then 10, 12 years old, and finally had a state job, and I could afford to maybe spend the money and get my degree somehow or the other. I go to the admissions. Actually, the admissions come back and says, sir, you have enough to graduate. Didn't even get notified that I had the eligibility to graduate. I had to just walk in there out of the blue and find out that, yeah, I could graduate. I could have already graduated probably several years ago. My dad was dying of cancer. He'd been fighting that for about 10, 15 years. It kept getting worse. And in February of 09, he passed away, but at least he knew that I was going to get my bachelor's degree. And I used to dig up dandelion roots for him, and we'd do that for cancer-causing medicine. And pretty neat. At the 92, 93 graduation ceremonies, the flower was the dandelion. And so he was dead by then. Didn't get to see me get my degree, but he knew I was going to get it. So didn't have much to go on, and so that was on my record. It didn't look good. And then Had some misfortunes with this and that, and my back getting bad, and so the story of what happened was the combination of a guy didn't like me. I stood up for people's rights in that classroom. Young kids that just graduated from high school, mostly female, and this guy wanted to ostracize me for sticking up for him, for standing up for their rights, for standing up for their who knows what those girls uh, uh, had forced upon them. I don't know, personally speaking, but I know one thing. They were glad that I stood up for them in the test questions. And as far as being incompetent, I won the Dalton Astronomy Award in physics, aced a physics class, and won awards in physics. Was almost on the dean's list several times over. Yet this guy wants to ruin everything that I'd worked for and changed for the better in my community because he had it out for me. So I never did get my degree until 2009. Dad died. I'm not sure what I was doing then. I was trying to be getting non-disabled, get my disability. By then I had 6 bolts in my back and 2 bone inserts. And that's probably down here. You can probably see that. And then a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I was forced into having surgery. And so they put a battery in me over here and a wire up to this spot. And I should have never have done it. They had no alternative. It messed up. They had to move the wire. When they moved the wire, either the battery back charged and exploded all through the T9 and T10 area and totally wiped out my entire leg. All I had was 3 toes that was living and functional in the entire right side of my leg. And so for 3 years now, I have been fighting that and wanting to get back into coaching. Nobody would hire me. Not even North Greene would hire me. They wouldn't even give you a chance. They wouldn't even let me tell my side of the story. I had some situations where I paid off somebody's car. Dad died. I had a little bit of money. I paid somebody $3,000 to pay off their car, that I would hold their title. Yet that person puts an order of protection against me and accuses me of domestic violence because she wouldn't give me the title. And evidently I screamed at her or yelled at her, according to her witness, at a local establishment. Well, come to find out, her mom works for the police chief, and she could say and do whatever she wanted. So I didn't get the title. I got screwed out of $3,000 trying to help her out and doing somebody a favor. And so that doesn't look good on my record. And she finally admitted that it wasn't a gift to the courthouse. Had to take her to small claims. She finally admitted it. Then she's told the judge that she would pay me back. Never did happen for 2 years, 3 years. When you go try to find her, it costs you $35, $45 each time the sheriff goes out and finds her, and to try to get your $3,000 back. And could never get that back. So bye-bye $3,000 for helping somebody else out again, and then having it turned on me as I'm a badass. Pardon my French again. So I don't know. If you had bad luck, if I had as much good luck, if I had bad luck, I'd be a billionaire. So anyway, that's kind of the story. We come out of nowhere. We were the giant killers. We didn't get anybody recognized. We didn't get any recognition south of us, which was the Alton area, because #1 Southwestern Pie-Saw Birds was 26-0. You had Isringhausen on that team. You had Sean Watson on that team. They both got drafted by the Mets. We had #3 Route High School. They were unbelievable. Bonjean and all of them, and Rumpel scoring 30 points a game, 36 points a game. They had Pine, a great center. We ended up getting by them, luckily. Jason Deveneaux, he was our MVP that game, and we put the half-court trap on him to squeeze that one out. Gerald was the MVP of the next game. Gerald up here, he wouldn't even went out. He wouldn't even went out for North Greene had it not been for me in 87 and 86 talking him into going out because he didn't even know Coach Stone was my dad. So here we go. People telling me I had nothing to do with this team. Had I not even turned my career around, my father wouldn't even have took the coaching position. Had I not changed my career and put 3 years on the court, on the streets, working with these guys, and then learning my dad's ways. And dad knew football. He could not get the aspects of basketball. He didn't have the point guard mentality. He had the plays. He had the 2-point plays. He had all the fundamentals of how to do it. But kind of like Bowman, I don't know if you know, from Greenfield or Pembroke, some football coaches are great coaching football and they just can't get the flow of the basketball. I had the flow of the basketball along with my dad, and the alumni would help these guys begin to be tough. We had a 500 year, the 88 season. The 89 year, we come out of nowhere. We got beat by Southwestern. We got beat by Beardstown on a last second shot at the Midwest tournament to lose that tournament. And then Route they had all the press up north of us. The press was down south of us. We got beat by Liberty, had a heck of a good ball club. They won the Winchester tournament. So we had a combination of no tournament trophies, but we believed in ourselves. We got beat by Route, we got beat by Southwestern, got beat by Beardstown, and we got beat by Liberty. And that's the only 4 teams that beat us until we got all the way up to state. I got a whole book for that. The state run, the giant killer story, what we did, the technicalities of it, special things we did. The era of the round backboard. In 1989, we hosted the regionals. A lot of people didn't know there was a round backboard here at North Greene. And Dad had asked me, he said, what do you think? Should we change this out to a square one before we go to the sectionals? So we got to beat number 1 Southwestern in the state, Dad. Leave it round. And not only that, Southwestern has their rims all silver, worn out and stuff. I said, I want that painted, as much paint of orange as you can get on that rim, and I want those round backboards to stay up there. And we did everything we could for a home field advantage. Although we had to beat 7 of them. We had 5 guys we had to beat. We had 2 referees. Daxton, he's from down near Southwestern. They're not going to call anything against the number 1 team in the state. No. So we had to earn our way and beat everybody and the refs. So we ended up winning it. We were down 9 at halftime. Barnard, Craig, back here behind me, he was the MVP of that. And so I got stories of the whole teams that we played. The Griggsville team, they were unbelievable. Quincy Notre Dame, nobody could beat them. How we talked to Coach Hembrew about how to beat Quincy Notre Dame, and stories upon stories. So the downfall, though, I never got a chance to sit with the team at the state finals, and I'm still kind of hurt to this day that all that time, all that effort, my decision to turn my career back and go back to coaching, yet did all this stuff, yet my dad couldn't get me down there with him on the state game, the state final. And we kind of had worked it out where it is advantageous to us because I would be on one side, he'd be on the bench, I'd be on the other side of the floor. I could help corral the referee calls. I'd help with the other things on there. So he had a coach on the other side of the floor, which he liked. But when we went to the University of Champaign and played there, there was no such thing as me being on the other side of the court. And he really needed me. That second half, when we come out flat in the third quarter, we were down 1 point at halftime to then the eventual champs, the state champions, Carlisle. And we're down 1 point. They ended up winning football and basketball that year. There was only 2 classes, 1A and 2A. And that was a heck of a year, 88, 89. So Carlisle ended up beating us. They actually were the better team. They had 4 or 5 of the guys that had played on the team the year before. And I think the year before they were like 24-2, or maybe 28-2 or something. And then this year they'd won 30-something. So between the two, the starting 5 from the year before and the starting 5 that year, those 5 ball players had won like 60 games with like 2 losses. And Michaels, he ended up going to the University of Illinois in 1990. So, yeah. I had Andy Kaufman, a relative, just gotten, he was at the U of I, you know. Things were going here. We had a system going. And I watched it basically go from the top peak to all the way down, and nothing happened. And a lot of those guys, here's the thing that gets me. A lot of those guys that Marty had were running with me on the court against the starters. The 88, the 89 starters. We had the 90, 91, 92 teams practicing against our starters, and I was on the starting 5 against the starters. So a lot of those guys learned their trades and passes and alley-oops and stuff like that. And then catching bull. You know, Dad caught some bull for starting freshman. Here's the story, another part of the story. He almost got fired. Dad almost got fired like he did in football. He turned the program here around at the same place, turned it around in 3 years, but they fired him. Didn't have enough. He was building it. He was building a football program. This year, right before this season ended, he was threatened from the school board members that he was almost ready to be fired because he wasn't playing a senior or this guy or that kid. And Dad didn't care. He played who was going to contribute, who was going to be more of a contribute later on in the program. So, had he been fired in the middle of the season because they didn't want to give him a chance, none of this here would be behind me. So, you know, I'm really so glad some of these things, I never really got a chance to tell the story. I've been trying to write a book. I'm crippled. I'm disabled. I didn't get disability. My brother couldn't even believe that. I said, yeah, I'm denying disability, even though I'm a paraplegic with the leg shattered off, with bolts in my back in '03, with a wire sticking up in me and a battery that's been blowing my leg off. I'm not qualified to draw disability. And you tell me why. Why not? I paid $50,000 into FICA my entire career. I worked. I even went back to work in extreme pain in 2003 when I had the bolts and the surgery. To get denied, to lose everything, to live in a van down by the river. And you know what? I was actually happy. Happier to have nothing, to lose my farm, to lose my education, to lose my children that I wouldn't be able to provide for, to be embarrassed, to not be able to give my son a Christmas gift for so many Christmases, to not give my son a birthday gift for so many birthdays, because I couldn't even pay $5 rent for housing. I had no money. I lost it all. I had to sell everything for 10 years. And then I'm told that after 10 years, you're not able to draw your disability. You're off the sheet. Yeah, it's totally crazy. So anyway, that's some of the story on the blacklisting of and what happened here and the giant killer stuff. So I hope this turns out. Knowing me, this probably stopped and I didn't get any of it recorded. So let's see what it looks like. No, we got it going. 35 minutes. All right, signing out.